Looking for the absolute easiest way to legally live in the EU right now? Well, if you're a remote worker, you've probably been hearing a ton of buzz about the 2026 Hungary White Card. People are constantly pitching it as this sort of golden ticket into the Schengen area. But look, here's the reality. While it is highly accessible and relatively affordable to get, it is also one of the most rigid and restrictive immigration tools out there. Today, we're going to look exactly at what this visa is, what it isn't, and honestly, whether it's the right move for you.
Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to guide you through this today. There is so much marketing hype floating around about digital nomad visas, right? They make it sound like it's just an effortless permanent vacation. But you want the actual facts. So my goal today is to cut right through all that noise and give you the grounded, no-nonsense reality of the Hungary White Card for 2026. We're going to break down the exact requirements, the legal trade-offs, and the financial realities so you know exactly what you're getting into.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap. 1. What is the White Card? 2. Who actually qualifies? 3. The major trade-offs. 4. Taxes and financial realities. And 5. The application timeline and steps. Let's hit it. Section 1. What exactly is the White Card? Well, formally, it's a residence permit specifically for teleworking. Basically, it allows third country nationals, meaning anyone from outside the EU and European Economic Area, to legally live in Hungary and travel freely throughout the Schengen area. The catch? You have to be working entirely for an entity that is based outside of Hungary. Now, comparing Hungary to other popular European spots really highlights why this option is so unique. Hungary asks for a minimum monthly income of €3,000. That's actually a bit lower than the barrier to entry for Spain or Portugal. But, and it's a big but, you are trading that lower financial barrier for some seriously strict short-term limitations. In Hungary, your absolute maximum stay is 2 years total, and there is zero path to permanent residency. Nada. Spain and Portugal might ask for a bit more money up front, but they actually offer genuine pathways to stay there permanently. Moving on to Section 2, who actually qualifies? Under Act XC of 2023, residency is treated strictly as a privilege. You absolutely must be a non-EU national who is working as a remote employee, running a foreign business, or freelancing with strictly non-Hungarian clients. Let's talk hard numbers. You've got to prove a stable, foreign-sourced net monthly income of at least €3,000. And listen, this isn't some rough average or a future projection. You must show totally clean, documented proof, we're talking bank statements, employment contracts, showing that you've cleared that €3,000 net minimum every single month for the 6 months immediately prior to applying. It is a very strict baseline. But wait, income alone actually isn't enough. You also have to show a personal savings buffer of at least €10,000. And that money has to be sitting in a non-sanctioned bank account where you can easily access it. Basically, immigration authorities want to see this as your emergency fund. It proves you've got the financial stability to cover surprise costs or, buy a flight back home without ever having to rely on the Hungarian state. So a really crucial point here is understanding who is excluded from this program. Obviously, if you hold an EU passport, you can't use this. You just use standard EU registration. But more importantly, you cannot engage with the domestic labor market in any way, shape, or form. No working for a Hungarian employer, no taking on local Hungarian clients. You can't even hold shares in a domestic Hungarian company. Oh, and if you're already in Hungary on a student visa or a local work permit, you are legally barred from just switching over to a white card from inside the country. No shortcuts. All right, Section 3, the major trade-offs. Let's transition right into the reality check phase of our explainer. Because if you're planning to uproot your entire life, you need to know the exact structural constraints that are tied to this permit. What's truly striking here is the absolute blanket prohibition on family reunification. Yes, you get legal residency, you get Schengen travel, but your spouse, your kids, your dependent parents, they cannot simply join you as dependents under your visa. No way. If you're a married couple wanting to move to Hungary, you both have to apply entirely separately, and you both have to individually prove that you make €3,000 a month from remote work. Simply put, this setup is designed for single professionals, not families.
The other massive trade-off is time. The white card is valid for 1 year, and you can extend it exactly once. That creates an absolute, non-negotiable 2-year maximum stay. Once those 2 years are up, you have to pack up and leave. Furthermore, the time you spend living in Hungary on this permit essentially does not exist in the eyes of the government when we're talking about long-term settlement. It doesn't count towards the 3 years you need for permanent residency, and it definitely doesn't count towards the 11 years required for citizenship.
Section 4, Taxes and Financial Realities. Let's shift our focus to clear up a super common and honestly very dangerous misconception. Holding a digital nomad visa does not magically exempt you from local taxes. It just doesn't. Your immigration status and your tax status are two entirely separate legal concepts in Hungary.
To really understand your tax liability, you have to grasp the 183-day rule. This is a fundamental tax principle. If you are physically present in Hungary for 183 days or more within a single calendar year, boom, you automatically trigger domestic tax residency. And once you cross that line, your worldwide income, regardless of where your boss is located or where the money is deposited, becomes completely subject to Hungarian taxation laws.
So what does that actually cost you? Well, if you become a tax resident, you're looking at a 15% flat personal income tax plus an 18.5% social security contribution. Now, while a 15% flat tax is pretty competitive globally, it's still a big chunk of your paycheck that you absolutely have to account for. Also, if you're a corporate employee rather than a freelancer, your physical presence in Hungary for over 6 months might trigger what's called a permanent establishment risk. This literally means your foreign employer could suddenly be on the hook for corporate taxes in Hungary. You're definitely going to want to have a chat with your HR department before you pack your bags. I also want to touch on housing real quick. You need proof of accommodation, like a 12-month lease, just to get the card. Now, some people think buying property is a clever shortcut, but remember this key phrase: real estate acquisition and immigration pathways are legally separate processes in Hungary. Under the new 2026 municipal laws, local governments actually have broad powers to restrict foreigners from buying property in certain zones. And hey, even if you do manage to buy an apartment, it only solves the accommodation requirement. It does absolutely nothing to waive the remote income rules, and it won't extend that 2-year maximum stay. Section 5, Application Timeline and Steps. Okay, let's move into the execution phase. If you've weighed all these trade-offs and you're still ready to go for it, let's look at how this dual-phase process actually works. Here's the practical breakdown. Unless you're from a country that already has visa-exempt entry to the Schengen area, you have to start at Step 1, consular submission. You'll apply at a Hungarian embassy or consulate right in your home country, bringing all your translated documents, your bank statements, and a €110 fee. If you're approved, Step 2 is the issuance of a Type D visa. This is just a single entry visa that literally just lets you travel to Hungary. Step 3 is your actual entry into the country. And finally, Step 4 happens locally, where you have to register your biometrics, your fingerprints and a photo, at the local immigration office. Timing is everything with this stuff, so let's walk through the exact expectations so you can pace your relocation. That initial consular processing usually takes about 21 to 30 days. Once you get that Type D visa in your hands, you have a maximum window of 30 days to physically enter Hungary. After you arrive, the clock is ticking. You have exactly 15 days to get yourself to the local immigration office and complete that biometric registration. Once you've got all that sorted, the physical white card gets delivered to your registered Hungarian address by post, usually within 2 to 4 weeks. Which brings us to the ultimate question you really have to ask yourself. Is a strict 2-year European stint actually worth the trade-offs? The Hungary White Card gives you a relatively straightforward, low-barrier entry point to live in Europe and travel all over the Schengen zone, but it demands that you accept a hard stop at 2 years with zero path to permanent residency and absolutely no option to bring your family along on a single application. For a solo remote worker looking for a fun 2-year adventure, it might be totally perfect. But if you're looking to actually plant roots somewhere, you'll definitely need to look elsewhere. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this breakdown helped clarify your path forward.